This is an interview conducted by the League of Women Voters of Coos County with Drew Farmer, who is a candidate for County Commissioner Position 1 in the November 5th, 2024 election. His opponent, Bob Main, was also invited to sit for an interview and did not agree to do so. Drew, thank you for joining us for this interview.
Sure.
Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself before we begin?
Sure. So I'm Drew Farmer, served on Coos Bay City Council for 8 years, so folks know me from that. Just background on me, I'm from Coos Bay. I live probably 6 blocks from where my folks did when I was born. Family was in Lakeside for 70 years, and I graduated from North Bend High School, so I was the 3rd generation through there. After I graduated North Bend, went into the Navy, did that, and got out when my contract expired, went off to college, I came home for a year first because I wanted to be home. I went to SWAC, and then transferred to Portland State, degree in sociology, minor in psychology, bachelor's of science. Got home, and since then, started off, did a park ranger thing for a summer, worked for Chuck Braceland in trucking for a little bit, and then got into the social services side where I wanted to be. So I worked with folks with severe and persistent mental illness, spent a lot of time working with people, helping them get jobs when they had disabilities, helping them get back into the workforce. And for a bit there, ran Oregon Coast Community Action, and then knew I was going to want to run for commissioner, and that doesn't work well when you're running an agency with 250 plus employees. So I stepped out, made my own consulting business, and that's what I do right now while I'm running.
Thank you. All right. What are the most urgent challenges facing the county, and how would you address them?
Yeah. So off the top, the 3, we have the criminal justice aspect. Folks may know the Oregon by the Numbers report that came out, and Coos County is ranked 4th worst in the state for index crimes. Those are serious crimes, like it's not shoplifting, that's murder, sexual assault, things along those lines. And there are 36 counties. We are number 4 for being the worst. We have a housing market crisis, and I consider that fairly linked with our homelessness crisis. But housing wise, just in Coos Bay, we need several hundred houses right now. And then we also have the financial issue of the county itself. To me, things I want to do in that regard, I want to go over every agreement the county has where reimbursement occurs, where the county draws money. One thing I've learned about is it's only been within the last decade that the county started charging the Coos Health and Wellness Department for their IT services, for the HR aspect, the administrative component. That's something they could have been charging for decades. They just weren't because they didn't feel the need, and then it got a little forgotten about after the need emerged. And it wasn't until, John Sweet has been on the commission that was started again. And that's important because that's not billing themselves. That's money coming out of Medicaid to pay for them to operate. So those are federal dollars being clawed back to our community. And I want to see if we have more opportunities like that. Additionally, we've got to grow the economy here. A lot of sectors have suffered. More sectors are hiring or employing fewer people than are employing more people from 20 years ago. And without that aspect going on, we don't see an increase in the assessed value of properties. We don't see an increase in development. And when you don't have development, you don't have a tax base.
All right. Would you explain any ideas you have about how to increase revenue for the county?
Yeah. So the one part I already addressed, going back through the contracts, seeing what they've got there. I suspect they could be doing more with grants. I know they did bring on somebody that is handling grants right now, but I just always think there's more coming out of the nonprofit world. You're always thinking there's more out there. Sometimes there is. So we've got that. We need to see more economic development. I think one of the challenges that has occurred, without being specific about commissioners, there's been a very singular focus on the timber industry. And that is not the only industry we have. We had at one point a robust information services system, demographic here. They had 350 jobs in 2002. They're down to less than 150 jobs now. We've got the financial services aspect. We had a robust system there, more than about 725 jobs. That market is down below 700 now. And there's just area after area, sector after sector of our economy that has gone down while the singular focus has been on the timber industry. I think the county needs to diversify its perspective. And I've talked with a few businesses about ideas, but I look forward to having more time to make those investigations.
During the negotiations in the legislature over modifying Measure 110, counties were asked to sign a letter of intent to offer deflection and diversion programs in drug possession cases. 23 Oregon counties signed, but not Coos County. Should Coos County develop a deflection program for drug possession cases?
Yeah, programs like that are useful. I distinguish when I talk about the drug epidemic, and I think it's an important distinguishment, is from, you've got the section of people who are addicted to substances, and I consider those victims of dealers. And when you're looking at deflection, when you're looking at addressing addiction, you're looking mostly at those individuals who need to get sober, need to get away from dealers, and the opportunity to do that without going to prison, where they're really, if you're in prison, people can get drugs if they want drugs. So an alternative that keeps them farther away from drugs is ideal, and it reduces the burden on our legal system, which is already slammed and overwhelmed. The more cases we have going through, we already have a public defender crisis. We don't have enough public defenders for all the cases coming through. And when there aren't enough, people can get off for serious crimes because a public defender can't be secured in a timely fashion. So right now, even if we wanted to, we don't have the capacity to avoid doing a deflection program or something along those lines.
How can the county commissioners better collaborate across jurisdictional boundaries to resolve problems that affect cities and county alike?
Yeah, really that just comes down to being a participant. And that's something I think I'll be able to bring more easily to that table. I think, to the best of my knowledge, I would be the only one at that table that's been a city councilor, that's been in city government. I don't believe John has, and I'm pretty sure Rod hasn't, and I know Bob hasn't. So I would get to come in already having connections with the broader city system. I sat on the League of Oregon Cities board for 3 years. So I'm known top to bottom within the city system. And I've got a familiarity with what goes on in our cities and the interaction with the county. So being in a city, one of our biggest challenges is if the county doesn't have the jail going, our law enforcement has a big problem. Or when people on county land know that the county has very few deputies, we get problems out Cape Arago where it's county land, and you walk 1 or 2 blocks, you're back in the city to do whatever you were going to do, and then you dart back into county land. So that is a huge issue. And also, I've never seen a great deal of participation out of 2 of the 3 commissioners when it comes to cities. And I can cite that back to one example very easily. I'm the first representative ever from the South Coast of City County Insurance. There was an issue that came to the commissioners they didn't believe they could do because of their insurance, and no one ever reached out to me to ask if I could put any light on it or help. I found out about it and I did it on my own and told them how they could do the thing they wanted to do. But they they haven't been in a position where they think about collaborating enough to take a step to ask somebody. And that's a big problem right now.
Okay. What role can the county play in addressing the affordable housing shortage?
Part of that is going to be the collaboration with cities and other governmental entities. So not everybody knows this, but the Port of Coos Bay, a lot of people think the city or the county controls it, and they don't. The Port of Coos Bay is a board appointed by the governor, separate from all of us. They have, just in the city of Coos Bay, 200 residential acres in East Side. And I believe that a commissioner, with that being a full-time job, would have the time and opportunity to interact at the state level to see what can be done, probably through the governor's office, to encourage our other governmental partners to use the land they already have. Because a study for 20 years of housing development of Coos Bay said we're going to need 80 acres to fill the demand for the next 20 years. And there's 200 acres of residential sitting in East Side doing nothing for the last over a decade. So it's just putting pieces together that already exist.
What is your position on home rule? And would you please name some changes to Coos County's government structure that you would support or oppose if a home rule charter were written?
Yeah, the honest answer there is I don't have any experience with home rule. I have not researched into the difference because I haven't had a reason to. My understanding of it, I don't know to what extent it's necessary. The structure is already there. And when the county can't even pay its bills as is, I don't think that's the time to start playing with the structure.
Okay, to sum up, would you like to mention which qualities and experience make you the best candidate for county commissioner?
Yeah, so I obviously am hardworking with the different things I've done. While I've been on city council and serving on several committees at the state level, at the local level, parallel to that, I also ran actually when I started, I was an hourly employee in supported employment for mental health. So I do city council stuff, work my 40 hours plus, take suicide calls at 2 a.m., keep doing my job. And it builds up a sense that you just keep plugging through. I ran Bay Area Enterprises during this same time frame. I took it from operating in one county to 5. I took over 5 other agencies while sitting on the city council in the background as a side thing. And I ran Oregon Coast Community Action for a year and a half. I had over 250 employees spread across 2 or 3 counties because we had a little bit in Douglas. And I've done all of that while also serving on the council and being the first person from our region to serve on 1 or 2 boards at the state level. So I think as compared to some folks, I might have a little more motivation and initiative, and I would toss some of that back to my time in the military. It instills the idea in you that you never let somebody go ahead of you if you have the opportunity to do it yourself. So that's what I aim to do. I've got the ability to do this, so I'm trying to take a spot where I can do more.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us today, Drew.